Hey everybody, Adam here with Hometown Acres. Welcome back. So today we are going to try to design the perfect pond. In about 3 weeks time, we're going to be taking delivery of an excavator and skid steer rental for 7 days. I have an operator that's going to be coming to dig the pond for us, but right now I'm feeling a bit unprepared. There's a lot of things that we still need to work out. Where do we want to put the pond, the general shape of the pond? Do we want to have a spillway, or do we want to have a standpipe for our overflow structure? A lot of things that we still need to figure out, and like I said, right now I'm just feeling a bit unprepared. So I figured, what better way to plan and design this pond than to go talk to the friends and family members who have had ponds for a number of years, pick their brains on what they like about their pond, what they don't like, if they could go back and do it over, what they'd do different. So they always say that experience is the best teacher, but it's also the most expensive teacher. So hopefully today we're gonna go get some free experience and learn from some others' mistakes if they made any, or hopefully they can guide us in the right direction on some things that they really like about their pond that they think we should do as well. So we're gonna go check out about 3 ponds today. Hope you'll stick around and come join us. All right, so we just got here to our first pond. This is actually Doug's brother's pond. And this is really beautiful up here. How many acres does he have?
I think it's about 300 now.
300 acres. So it looks like he's done quite a few different water features around here. There's an island, he's got the windmill, there's a fire pit that's over there. So we were just sitting here talking about some of these things that I could maybe incorporate into my pond. I don't know about the island, just because it's just going to be more mowing that you've got to do. Now, what they did here to facilitate and making mowing easier is, you can see they poured quite a bit of gravel right in here, and they've got 2 stakes so you can see where it is all the time. But the water right here crossing is only about 15-16 inches deep, so you could still take a mower across there and mow that, or you could even walk across with some waders and take a weed whacker over there and not have to get out a boat to get over there and mow it. So that's an interesting idea if you still wanted to get an island. So one thing that I really want in a pond is to be able to swim in it as well. And looking at this water here, I mean, it is crystal clear. You can see straight down to the bottom. Now granted, it's not that deep here and I've got my waders on, but this water is crystal clear. Doug, what do you think is the main contributing factor to the water in this pond being so clear?
Well, one is there's zero runoff to it from any watershed. There's no watershed coming from any of the land around whatsoever, because this is almost on a high point of the hill here, and it is 100% spring fed. Not everybody has that option, but when we take a look at the other ponds, you'll see how he created swale ditches and put field tile in to catch the rainwater runoff, but to literally not have it run into the pond. It goes into these, I would say, catch ditches, if you will.
Yeah.
And then it lets it absorb into the ground and then goes into the pond that way.
So another really cool feature that they have here is this windmill here. So you can see that windmill is powering a little bubbler going, and there's a piston pump that's attached to the windmill powering that bubbler, and that's what's acting as aeration to the pond. So in addition to spring water feeding this, you've got aeration, which is keeping the fish healthy, the entire ecosystem, and that is also helping to keep the water crystal clear. Now we're up on the high side of the dam, and we were going to talk about the standpipe that they put in here. So they went with a standpipe over some type of spillway, and I know Mike talks about this a lot, where if you're in the woods, a standpipe's a pretty hard thing to keep clean because you've got leaves and sticks, but obviously out here in the middle of a field, you don't really have to worry about that. So they've got the trash rack on there. And Doug, what size pipe did you say is on there?
He said he thinks that it's a 14-inch. I don't know. It's a 12 or a 14-inch, and he's got that all the way down into the deepest part of the pond. And then we were just talking, it looks like it goes a good 150 feet into the woods there, which is really nice, because that actually allows you to mow around the entire side of the pond. You don't have a wet spot or a pipe or anything coming out the backside of your pond. You can,
yeah, so instead of having, you know, your pipe come right out the backside of the dam, they've actually got it buried all the way into the woods. That way you can still keep all this trimmed and mowed and everything. Now what's the depth of this pond, you know?
He said that it's close to 20 feet deep up here.
Almost 20 feet deep.
Yeah. A lot of your weed problem is in shallow areas where the sun can reach.
Yeah.
So that's how you end up with a lot of weeds.
So we called Doug's brother when we got out here, and we said, all right, so what would you do different if you could do it again? And he said, always go bigger. Always go deeper, go bigger. And What were some of the reasons he said for going bigger again?
Just because it's nicer. It gives you a lot more extra room to have. You know, if you wanted to come out here with a paddle boat, if you wanted to come out here with a wave runner or jet ski, you could. If it was bigger, you know.
Well, and he said you could stock a different variety of fish if you had more room too. I think the smaller you go, you're a little bit more limited on what types of species of fish you can put in here too. So
and the size of the tank too. The smaller the tank, the less the less size of fish we'll get.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go over and take a look at this fire pit and cabin that they put over here. So this is beautiful up here, Doug. So how would you go about putting in this retaining wall into the pond?
Well, you almost have to have it pre-thought out, and if you don't, then you have to be able to lower your pond water somehow so you can get out there and create a base for the stone, like a limestone or some kind of a good compacted base in underneath the retaining wall portion of it. You build your wall and then you backfill it with your gravel and stone and everything else. So, and I know that he did this prior to the pond filling completely up, so he was able to access the ground out there to get to the stone to compact it and do all that.
And build your foundation and keep everything level going up.
Yep.
And I'd imagine this is one of those things that probably isn't that expensive if you do it yourself, but if you pay somebody to do it, they're going to charge you an arm and a leg just because it's really pretty and it looks nice.
It's labor intensive.
Yeah. And you've got to have some kind of piece of equipment to move those stones because you probably aren't moving those by hand.
No, you got to have an excavator, which you ought to be getting sometime soon.
Yeah, it's on my short list. And then he put a cabin in here too. Now, what is he, just to camp out by the pond, or? Yeah,
that cabin actually, they've run electricity to it. It has a restroom in there. It's got propane that heats it, so they can camp out. There's I think 4 bunks in it, and then a bed, a couple pull-out couches, and a little sink, and you know, just a place to put some food and stuff. But they camp out in it quite a bit as well.
I'll tell you what, that would be really nice back at the campsite, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All right, but anyway, that's this pond here. They actually have 2 ponds on this property. We're gonna go now and take a quick look at the second pond. So we're on our way back down to the second pond, and this is where Doug was talking about the swales that go around for the second pond to kind of filter some of that rainwater runoff.
You can see here where the landscape island and the fan are. It's kind of the back side of the swale. And I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but when you come around and go down that way, you can see how that swale takes any of the runoff from the upper hillside and sheds it out and around the pond. And it actually is the same on both sides. I'll go around over there.
So normally you'd think you want to get as much, you know, surface activity of rainwater runoff going into your pond, but here they're actually diverting it out around the pond. Now that helps preserve the shoreline of the pond as well as keeps, you know, stormwater runoff from silting up the pond, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and it keeps the erosion off the side of the pond as well, because if you have those big heavy-duty rains that come down, and it literally, as you see, we're going down towards the pond and the hill here, that would instantly erode the land and
just carve a channel and a ditch.
And the pond would always be dirty water every time it got a heavy rain.
Yeah. So there I can see bubbles coming out there. I'm assuming he's got another.
Right behind us.
There's the windmill. So there's the windmill powering, looks like 2 different bubblers.
Got 2 bubblers in there.
2 bubblers on this pond here. All right, but anyway, let's get out and take a look at this one. So one thing I've learned already just after these first 2 ponds is that you've got to have some kind of patio area next to the pond. It just really ties it all together and makes it not look like just a giant hole in the ground, but actually brings it together, makes it aesthetically pleasing and a place that people want to hang out. But this is absolutely beautiful here. All right, so on this one, it looks like we've got a little bit more of an unconventional drain system here. So this is not just a 12 or 14-inch drain pipe here. What's this, Doug?
It's a cement catch basin or a cement culvert like you would see in the cities or whatever, but basically what it does is just when the water comes up to a certain height, it flows in over the side walls of the catch basin, and then in that catch basin there's a pipe that runs down through the dam of the pond into the woods again. And again, it's another one of those scenarios where you can mow all the way around the pond and keep it nice and not have to worry about your outflow water muddying up the back side of your dam.
Yeah. Or eroding the backside of your dam.
Yeah.
And back to those swales we were talking about, not only are they shedding the water away from going into the pond, but they're also shedding the water to the outside of the dam here. Now, if you don't know anything about dam construction here, this is all packed down clay. You know, usually you track it in with a skid loader or a bulldozer, but it's still not going to be, even if you pack it down with, you know, a 10, 15,000 pound piece of equipment, it's still not going to be as solid as virgin ground. So there's more of a chance of it washing away. So that's why any chance you get to keep water from running over top of the dam, you want to try to do that to keep your dam from getting eroded away. Now this is definitely something I want to incorporate into my pond build, because ours is going to be naturally spring fed, and that's what this one is. But you can see they added kind of like a little waterfall feature here for the spring to kind of bleed out right into the pond, and it just, once again, just makes it look really nice. So even though these ponds are a little bit outside the scope of what we're looking to do, we're looking to put in a 1/2 to 3/4 acre pond. Doug thought it was still a good idea to stop over here and talk about them, just because it shows the importance of not putting a pond in the woods. So Doug, explain what happened here with this one.
Well, he's got some very deep ravines that run through the woods up here, and every time you have any kind of heavy rains, those ravines collect all the water from the whole hillside. And as you can see at the start of the dam up there, all the silt, sediment, shale rock, and everything is washed in. And I think that's been over probably a year's period of time that's collected that much debris from upstream. And every year you've got to go in and bail that back out. So yes, it looks nice when you drive into the property, but it's a maintenance nightmare, because you've got to constantly bail the debris and silt and everything that washes into them. Yeah, so that whole area back there is what he's talking about. Now, how deep was this runoff pond here when you originally dug it, and what do you think it is now? I'll bet it was about 6 feet deep, and it's probably 3 feet now with the amount of stuff that is silted into it. And that's over the course of just 1 year? Yeah, yep. That's wild. As you can see from this one here, he put the waterfall in, and over the past couple, 2 or 3 years, all the heavy rains has literally just buried what pond there was here with all the shale rock and everything that's washed down through the ravine. And it's literally at ground level now to the dam. And it used to be, what, 5 or 6 feet deep? Yeah, easily 5 or 6 feet deep here. And you know what? Even though it has filled in, it still doesn't look that bad. It's still kind of nice down through here. No, but one of the benefits to it is it does help prevent erosion. So what they call them silt ponds in ravines themselves, and it's doing exactly what you'd want it to do, is to keep that silt in the ravine, in the rock, rather than running down and plugging up under his bridge. Oh yeah, that makes sense. All right, but anyway, I think that's going to about wrap it up here. I think we've got one more pond we're going to go take a look at. All right, so we've arrived at the third and final pond that we're going to take a look at today. This one is very nice. This is borderline swimming pool here, Doug. Yeah, it's actually got a cement sidewall almost down to a cement bottom, and then there's cement underneath the sand beach. So there's very, very little seaweed. There's very little mud, algae, mud, anything like that. I know Brian's kids love to swim in it, and you know, so it's a swimming pond pretty much. Yeah, this is awesome. I definitely want to do the pond dye in whatever we end up building, but I really like this sandstone border here. It definitely looks like it's going to help making trimming around the pond a lot easier. You can get a lot closer with the mower. Probably still have a little bit of weed eating to do, but not much. Yeah, the sand I definitely want to put in, maybe not quite this big a beach, but a beach nonetheless. And Doug was saying that you can see he's got a swale coming around the pond here as well, but it's not deep enough. You can actually see water kind of crests over that swale a little bit and is starting to erode his beach right here. So they'll probably have to come back in here and make that swale a little bit deeper to keep that water from coming in the pond. But this goes to show you what we were talking about with the other one, a problem that they have avoided by putting those swales in around the pond. Yeah, this has got the swale. It just needs to be a little bit deeper for the amount of water that runs off the upper hill here. You know, we get 2 inches of rain on occasion during a storm, and that's just a tremendous amount of runoff off that upper hill. And the other thing we were talking about as well is if you're going to put a beach in like this, to not put it on the high side of the pond, because that's where if you do have surface runoff that's going to be going in your pond, it's going to be going through your beach. So we were saying if you're going to put one in, to put it on the low side of the pond where you don't have runoff coming into the pond.
So we're 3 for 3 on standpipes for the ponds we've looked at today. We have yet to see a spillway, but as Doug mentioned, if you have swales going around the pond, you don't really need a spillway for your overflow. A standpipe's usually enough. Also, being out in the middle of a field and not being in the woods, you don't have to worry about that standpipe getting plugged up. So back to the pond dye. This is definitely something I want to do in our pond just because it makes it look so much more inviting to swim. I've got friends and family who don't really even like to swim in lakes, let alone a pond. And I'm sure you've seen those old country farm ponds that they've got lily pads and they look kind of scummy. This one does not look like that at all. And I think the main reason for that is obviously the pond dye, but then he's also got, you know, the cement apron going around. But what it does is makes it look more attractive to swim in, but it also reduces the visibility, which decreases the amount of sunlight that gets to the bottom, and it doesn't promote algae growth, it doesn't promote weed growth from the bottom. And the other thing is it doesn't hurt the fish at all. I actually stuck the GoPro in the water here, and this pond is loaded full of fish. And again, it just makes it look really nice. So we just got back from looking at 3 pretty amazing ponds, and I don't know if I'm more confused now than I was when we started. But I think if you're gonna go look at ponds, you might as well go look at some pretty amazing ponds that have multiple different features going on with them. That way you can kind of pick and choose how you wanna lay your pond out. But anyway, I have 2 more ponds that I wanna show you, but I felt this video was starting to run a little long, so I'm gonna keep these first 3 ponds in this video, and then we'll do a second video going to check out the next 2 ponds. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to subscribe, click that like button, and we'll hope to see you on the next one where we go look at another 2. Thanks for watching.